Welcome to the Explainer. So let's just jump right into this, because today we're unpacking what is honestly one of the most fascinating and frankly extreme diet experiments I've ever seen. We're going to break down a wild 24-hour diet swap between a fitness expert who sits at a super lean 10% body fat and a guy named Cam who is 3 times his size, carrying nearly 380 pounds. But look, this isn't just about trading plates of food. We're actually diving into high-quality brain scans to uncover the real neuroscience of cravings, why our willpower so often fails us, and how we can actually hack our environment for success. But before we get to the science, I really want you to hear this. I'm on the floor of the washroom right now. I literally feel the food coming up. That is a direct quote from our incredibly fit host, Jeremy, at 3 a.m. His gag reflex was going crazy, his body was in total revolt, and he'd honestly never experienced anything quite like it. So, to understand exactly how a health expert ended up completely physically wrecked on a bathroom floor in the middle of the night, we kind of have to rewind and look at how this crazy 24-hour swap even started.
Section 1. The Swap and the Science.
All right, to figure out what was actually going on under the hood, Jeremy partnered with medical doctors to run some advanced EEG brain scans on Cam as well as his wife, Michelle. And to really grasp what these scans are showing us, we first needed to find the reward center. This is the specific region of your brain that basically decides just how irresistible food feels to you. You know that feeling when you look at a bag of chips or a donut and it feels like it's literally calling your name? Yeah, that is your reward center lighting up and driving those intense cravings. The really crucial takeaway here is that this totally removes a lot of the stigma around weight gain. It proves that some people are battling actual biological hardwiring that makes resisting fast food incredibly difficult.
So in phase 1 of the experiment, they literally just stared at a plate of McDonald's burgers and fries for 5 minutes. And when you look at the brain scan data, the contrast is absolutely wild. Cam's reward center was completely on fire. His brain was just overwhelmed with cravings. But Jeremy's reward center, it barely reacted at all. Instead, his brain's self-control center lit up. His brain was basically hitting pause to evaluate if that food actually aligned with his goals. So before taking a single bite, their brains were playing by completely different biological rules.
Section 2. The Calorie Illusion.
And that brings us to the actual diet swap, which brilliantly illustrates how the physical volume of food can totally trick us. Take Cam's typical morning meal that Jeremy had to eat: a McDonald's sausage egg griddle, a sausage muffin, 2 hash browns, and a large full-sugar Coke. Compare that to Jeremy's diet that Cam and Michelle were eating: protein French toast soaked in egg whites, turkey bacon, sugar-free syrup, and sautéed apples. And those apples, they aren't just there for flavor. Fast food is notoriously soft, which means you can wolf it down incredibly fast. But adding a chewy, solid component like those sautéed apples actually forces you to slow down your eating. This gives your body the time it needs to register that it's getting full.
And here is the jaw-dropping result of that single meal. Cam's typical breakfast clocked in at an astounding 1,674 calories. That is a massive amount of energy for food that isn't even going to keep you full for very long. On the flip side, Jeremy's healthy alternative, which left Cam and Michelle feeling absolutely stuffed, was only 474 calories. By swapping out those dense, soft fats for high-protein, chewy alternatives, the actual volume of food on the plate doubled, while the calories just completely plummeted.
Now, the calorie illusion gets even wilder at lunch. Cam is usually on the road for work, right? So he relies on these quick snacks. His typical lunch is a bagel with cream cheese, a cookie, granola bars, 2 cheese strings, and another full-sugar Coke. Literally not a single vegetable in sight. But for his diet, Jeremy prepped these massive BBQ chicken fajitas packed with fresh lettuce, veggies, and a sugar-free BBQ sauce, all paired with a diet soda.
So the really crucial point here is just how sneaky highly processed snacks are. Cam's completely on-the-go lunch hit 1,545 calories. Meanwhile, Jeremy's massive filling plate of fajitas was just 408 calories. And a huge culprit here is liquid calories. Cam was drinking up to 4 regular Cokes a day, even waking up in the middle of the night just to chug half a can. Just from the lunch Coke alone, Jeremy was already ingesting over 100 grams of sugar for the day, and he could literally feel his body starting to crash and struggle.
Which naturally brings up the whole topic of diet soda. And honestly, this perfectly illustrates how science sometimes completely contradicts popular belief.
There's actual research showing that when regular diet soda drinkers were split into two groups, one group was forced to swap to water and the other was told to drink more diet soda. The group that added more diet soda actually lost more weight over the next year and kept it off. Crazy, right? But why? Because strategic, sweet-tasting swaps effectively kill those sugar cravings without adding any calories, keeping you on track.
All right, Section 3, Psychological Sabotage and Hacking Your Environment.
Look, weight loss isn't just about white-knuckling it with sheer willpower. You actually have to outsmart your own brain. Let's talk about Michelle for a second. She had been taking Ozempic, a prescription weight loss medication, for a year. During her first brain scan with the burger, her brain showed absolutely zero reaction. It was as neutral as looking at a piece of cardboard. The food noise was just gone. But in phase 2, they were fed until they were completely stuffed and then presented with a massive dessert buffet. Suddenly, Michelle's reward center lit right back up. The takeaway here is huge. Medications and willpower both have their limits. If junk food is in your house, your brain's reward center is probably going to win eventually. You absolutely have to control your physical environment.
And another massive environmental trap we fall into is distracted eating. When Jeremy asked Cam what he does while snacking on chips, his answer was doom scrolling on his phone or watching TV. Check out this fascinating popcorn study. Researchers gave moviegoers either fresh, tasty popcorn or week-old, stale popcorn. Because they were distracted by the movie, both groups ate almost the exact same amount, even though the stale group actively admitted the popcorn tasted awful. Mindless, distracted eating literally overrides your brain's fullness signals.
So let's quickly summarize these actionable, science-backed strategies, because you can literally hack your environment. Add chewy textures to your meals to slow yourself down. Use diet sodas to kill sweet cravings without the caloric penalty. Commit to no screen snacking to stop that mindless zombie eating. And here's a kind of funny one Jeremy used. Use smaller utensils. Jeremy purposely gave Cam this tiny little salad fork for dinner. Now, Cam hated feeling like a baby for sure, but forcing smaller bites physically extends the duration of the meal, which gives your stomach the time it needs to tell your brain, hey, we're actually full.
And speaking of that dinner with the tiny fork, let's look at the dinner swap. Cam's typical dinner is this incredibly heavy fettuccine Alfredo with Cajun chicken, cooked in butter and oil, loaded up with cheese and served with thick garlic toast. To counter that, Jeremy crafted this massive plate of ground beef pasta. His secret? He used half regular spaghetti and half calorie-free noodles, mixed it all up with tomato sauce, sautéed veggies, and thickened it with a light cream cheese. Okay, I want you to brace yourself for this calorie gap. Cam's typical fettuccine dinner packed roughly 3,000 calories into a single meal. 3,000. That is more calories than most adult men need in an entire day, devoured in just one sitting. Jeremy's massive, visually overflowing plate of pasta, a mere 572 calories. Cam and Michelle were absolutely blown away by how full and satisfied they felt on a diet that they just assumed would leave them starving all day.
Section 4, the 8,000 calorie aftermath.
So as the day wrapped up with the dessert swap, the final tallies were finally calculated. What do you think the final calorie count actually was for this extreme 24-hour diet swap? Keep in mind, Cam's meals didn't physically look like a giant mountain of food on the plate, but as we've learned, highly processed fats and sugars are incredibly dense and incredibly sneaky.
Well, here's the staggering final count. Just to maintain his current weight, Cam's daily diet hit an unbelievable 8,312 calories. That included 422 grams of fat and nearly 1,000 grams of carbohydrates, and Jeremy had to consume all of this. Conversely, Cam and Michelle, eating Jeremy's high-protein, high-volume diet, which left them struggling to even finish their plates, clocked in at just 1,994 calories. They're in a massive caloric deficit without feeling hungry for a single second.
And the physical toll the next morning? It was a totally ironic role reversal. Remember that quote from the very beginning? Jeremy, the fitness expert, ended up on the washroom floor at 3 a.m. His body was entirely overloaded by the 300-plus grams of sugar. He felt sick, lethargic, and when he stepped on the scale, he found he had actually gained 6 pounds of scale weight in just 24 hours. On the flip side, Cam and Michelle woke up feeling light, energetic, and highly satisfied. Cam actually lost 3 pounds overnight.
This one-day experience fundamentally shifted Cam's entire perspective. He had always just assumed that dieting meant perpetual starvation and misery, but after experiencing these high-volume, brain-hacked alternatives and actually enjoying the workouts where his natural strength really shone through, Cam officially committed right there on camera to a year-long health transformation alongside Michelle. It just brilliantly illustrates that when you remove the stigma of weight gain and instead use brain-based environmental strategies, sustainable and positive change is entirely possible.
Which leaves us with this final thought. Your brain is incredibly powerful, yes, but your environment is the real architect of your habits. If your brain's reward center can actually be bypassed and rewired by simple choices, like adding chewy textures, using a smaller fork, or literally just putting your phone in another room, how are you going to design your next meal? Thanks so much for exploring this with us, and we'll see you in the next explainer.